The history of editing began with the magic lantern. The magic lantern was an early type of image projector developed in the 17th century, which appealed to people of all classes. It was commonly used for educational and entertainment purposes, and it still is in some parts of the world such as Asia and Africa. It was also used by magicians to project moving images for entertainment. The first images were hand-painted and drawn onto glass, so there was no editing used when showing movement. No one is sure who invented the first magic lantern, but the most widely accepted theory is that Christian Huygens developed the original device in the late 1650s. In 1827, the first still photograph was taken using a glass plate technique. Claude Niepce's photograph is showing the view from a window at Lagrange, which took nearly 8 hours to expose. This never really came into light until after Edward Muybridge's experiment. Next was the Formatrope, which was created in 1825. Again, this didn't use any editing either. A Formatrope was a popular toy in the 19th century. A disc with a picture on each side was attached to 2 pieces of string. When the strings were twirled quickly between the fingers, the 2 pictures appeared to blend into one due to the persistence of vision. The invention of the Formatrope is usually credited to either John Ayrton Paris or Peter Mark Roget. Paris used one to demonstrate persistence of vision to the Royal College of Physicians in London in 1824. He based his invention on ideas of the astronomer John Herschel and the geologist William Henry Fitton, and some sources attribute the actual invention to Fitton rather than Paris. Charles Babbage reported being introduced to the concept by Herschel and Fitton. As we move into 1834, we see more improvement with technology and entertainment, but not so much editing yet. Another illusion toy, the Zoetrope, was introduced by William George Horner. The Zoetrope used drawn pictures and slots which were combined in a rotating drum. This was a progress from after the war, as it was a more practical and entertaining toy. Zoetropes were widely sold after 1867. As part of our lesson, we were asked to make either a Formatrope or a Zoetrope. I decided to make a Zoetrope. This is a clip of how I did it. Moving into 1878, where Edward Muybridge achieved success after 5 years of trying to capture movement. Muybridge was asked, in 1873, by the ex-governor of California, Leland Stanford, to settle a bet as to whether horses' hooves left the ground when they galloped. He did this by setting up a bank of 12 cameras with tripwires connected to the shutters, so when the horse trips wires, each camera took a picture. Muybridge developed a projector to present his findings. Muybridge also adapted Horner's zoetrope to produce his supraxinoscope. Muybridge's experiment was the first to use editing, to which he had to edit the real images together in order to create movement. From this, we were able to tell as the years have gone on, technology has improved and progressed. We also got a chance to make our own Muybridge experiment, and here is what I did. Then came along the Lumiere brothers. Louis and Auguste Lumiere are credited for being the first filmmakers in history, and who designed a camera which serves as both a recording device and a projecting device. They called it the cinema photography, which was patented on February 13, 1895. The cinema photography was much smaller, was lightweight, around 5 kilograms, and was hand cranked. The Lumieres used a film speed of 16 frames per second, which became the standard film rate for nearly 25 years. It also meant that less film was used. The cinema photography used flexible film cut into 35mm wide strips and used an intermittent mechanism moduled on the sewing machine. For technology, this was a huge improvement, and the cinematographer became popular very quickly. As part of our learning, we got the opportunity to make our own 30-second video of the Lumiere example. This is what I did. They only ever had a private screening until the date of 28th December, which was their first public screening, held at the Grand Café on Paris' Boulevard. The Lumiere brothers were credited for creating the first motion pictures. The brothers began to open theatres to show their films, which became known as cinemas. In the first 4 months of 1896, they had opened cinematographer theatres in London, Brussels, Belgium, and New York. This allowed people from different parts of the world and different social classes to experience something so original, entertaining, and exciting. Then, in 1907, they produced the first practical colour photography process, known as the autochrome plate. In 1902, the first edited piece would come into light. Edwin Porter was an early American filmmaker. He was employed by Thomas in 1899 and given control of the New York studio, but it was his work as a touring projectionist beforehand that, it can be argued, gave him the vision to begin experimenting with film and editing. Life of an American Fireman is a short, silent film Edwin S. Porter made for the Edison Manufacturing Company. It was shot late in 1902 and distributed early in 1903. One of the earliest American narrative films, it depicts the rescue of a woman and child from a burning building. The reason why this short film became so known, and still is because it was the first of its kind. This film became the first piece of narrative footage which was considered important for its unusual editing style, being considered the earliest example of cross-cutting, notably during the final scenes of the rescue of the woman and her child. This enabled and helped the audience follow complex outdoor movement. On the basis of this, Porter was hailed as an innovative editor. This changed the history of editing from there on. Filmmakers were able to experiment more and create films that could change into scenes and shots differently and more carefully, being able to add more excitement and keep the audience engaged.